Hello everyone, I'm Marc Guberti, and in this video we're going to talk about how do we go from just a book idea with no text written or anything like that, just blank draft, to not just publishing your book, but also having a book sale within the next 24 hours. And I've used this method to publish over 20 books, and because I learned about the, make money within 24 hours of the book idea, since I learned that a little later, I haven't done that with all 20 of my books, but for the last 3 or 4 books, I have been making money within 24 hours of coming up with the idea and starting to write the book. So we're going to get into all of that in this video. So right there on your screen is a copy of my book, Content Marketing Secrets, on Amazon, because we're authors and love our work. I'm also going to show it in the small little clip that you see me. So that's my book, Content Marketing Secrets. The reason I'm showing you the sales page is even though I have this book with over 200 pages, that's not what you need to actually sell books on Amazon. A lot of people think they have to have the book finished before they get started with all the fun stuff, but in reality, you just need this page right here, and then you're ready to go. So what you need to actually sell books, all you really need is the cover, the title, and the description. Pricing also, but that goes without saying. But this right here, everything you see is all you need to start selling books. So we're going to actually show you another example of a book that I've written that's really going to highlight this point, Breakthrough Success. It's based on my podcast. So pretty much what we have here is a pre-order. So I think you may know where I'm going with this. Instead of finishing the book and then selling it, which I did for almost all of my books, and then I wondered why it would take a little longer than I expected to get a lot of sales. Now I put all my books up for pre-order and I drive sales to the pre-order page. So as of this video, we're not actually done writing this book. Like, this book's about halfway there. We're not done yet. We have until July. This is when I gotta give it to everyone by, and we're at around May right now doing this video. So the great thing about this is it gives you a deadline to finish your book. Now, if you think that all we're going to talk about is pre-order, there's definitely a lot more in this video. We're going to actually talk about how you write the book also from start to finish in 24 hours, because I feel like that is a skill that a lot of people are interested in. So in this book's case, I just put up the pre-order page in under 24 hours, made sales right away because I promoted it to my audience. We'll also talk about promotion in this video as well. So based on this page, again, all you really need: book cover, title, and description. If I could click that, there we go. So this is all you need to get your book going, because Amazon provides you with all this different stuff going on. They give you all of that. This is all you have to do. So we're going to go into the KDP dashboard really soon, but the only thing you really have to do first, and this is the one that may take a little time, is getting the book cover. So when it comes to creating the book cover, there are 2 different options you have. And once you have this book cover, that's literally all you need to start selling on Amazon. The first thing you need to do, the first option anyway, is to create your own book cover. KDP gives you the option to create a book cover. I do not recommend using that option. It's better to do it yourself because you just have more capabilities when you do it on your own. So the 2 options you have for creating the cover on your own, first is Canva. Canva's pretty good. You can upload a lot of pictures from the web that you can legally use using like pixabay.com or something like that to find pictures. So that's one option. When I used to actually do book covers, like create them on my own, I would actually use a Keynote, and I would size the slide appropriately so it matched the size of the book cover, because book covers around 8.5 to 11. That's the pixel ratio that you want to have usually. It's a little different for paperback because it's based on how you size it. But the idea is I would size the slide appropriately, move all the things in there that I wanted in there as if it were a book cover, and then I would export it as an image that I would use as the book cover. So that's option number one. I'm not going too deep into creating your own cover because I believe that the better option is to just use Fiverr. And if you like any of my books in the Grow Your Influence series, whether it's Content Marketing Secrets, which we showed you earlier, Podcast Domination, The Wealthy Author, or Breakthrough Success, all of those covers were done through Fiverr. There have been people who have asked me, like, how many hundreds of dollars have you spent on all these covers? And the answer is just $5 per book cover. So it's definitely better to just do it on your own. Wow, I just said that wrong. It's better to get someone on Fiverr than it is to do it on your own because a lot of these are just $5 now. Some of the ones you see here, I just searched Kindle book cover. Some of these you see here are $10, $25. You could definitely get a good Kindle book cover in just $5 and even in 24 hours or less, depending on who it is that you hire for that book cover. So getting it at $5 for the cover, like $2 for a transaction fee, I mean, that's saving you a lot of time. Usually it took me, when I actually created book covers, it took me at least an hour. And I can't justify my time being worth $7 an hour because instead of spending that hour creating the cover, I could pay someone else $7 instead, where, you know, the power of the US dollar and stuff like that's a little different. So, you know, like $7 to one person is a lot more money to another person just based on what currency they use. So that is why I opt to do Fiverr. I've done a lot of research on this. I'm just going to recommend my favorite person, Geek Blast. This guy, if I have a summit logo I want to create, if I have a book cover I want to create, this is the guy I always go to. So he has a few different offers based on, like, you know, what kind of logo do you want, whether it's just a logo for like a summit or a business, or if it's more for a Kindle book. So this is the guy who I always go to, does really great work. So there's your recommendation, because I know when you're first starting out on Fiverr, you feel like you got to do a ton of research to figure out who is the best person to hand off the responsibility of your cover to, because we all, like, your book is your baby. And, you know, like publishing 20 books, like each new book never gets old, and you want to make sure each book properly reflects you. So he's the guy I recommend if you want to go the Fiverr route. And it definitely makes sense from a money standpoint, because the time that you now don't have to spend creating the cover can go towards writing the book or growing some other area of your business. Now, in case you're wondering how exactly do I put my book up for pre-order on Amazon, it's actually pretty easy. So the first thing you want to do is go on kdp.amazon.com. This is their Kindle Direct Publishing. If you don't have an account, this is where you go. If you have an account, a lot of this looks familiar. So to create that pre-order, just like Breakthrough Success is right now, pre-orders live, we have some time left to actually write the book. You hit Kindle ebook. That's the first step. This is pretty much up to you. Book title, you got that. Series, it's good to do series because if you like Breakthrough Success, that's the fourth book in my Grow Your Influence series. So each time I promote Breakthrough Success, because it is part of that series, the other three books also get attention and tend to get more sales. So do series. That's just a good tip there. Author name, that's you. Contributor, you got that one. Description, we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Keywords, we'll also talk a little bit more on later. Categories, I mean, we'll talk about this later too, but these aren't the categories that people use to be best-selling authors. That there's something else you want to do. But this is where you go. Pre-order, down to the bottom. All you do, make your book available for pre-order, set release date. You could do right now, the way they do it is 90 days. You could space it out from 90 days from now. So The latest I could do is August 25th, 90 days from the time of this video. You have to submit the final version a little bit before that. Then you click save and continue. You do the pricing, all of that fun stuff. That's pretty straightforward. So this is how you go through the process of pre-ordering and setting your book up for pre-order. Subscribe wrong is a little, I made that move there and I spelled the word wrong. Okay, so this is how you make your book available for pre-order. Now we're gonna talk about though, because I know some of you want to just get to the point where you write a book within 24 hours. One thing I will say though, this applies more for nonfiction authors, because fiction authors, you want to just expand the story, you want to hit on certain scenes. For fiction, you really want to spend a little more time on that. I know like some fiction authors, like I don't want to say you can't do a book in 24 hours, but it's certainly a lot easier for the nonfiction side. All right, so now that we've got the tech stuff, we had the book cover, we know how to make a book available for pre-order. Let's talk to the people who want to go from book idea to finished work within 24 hours. Because some people, they don't want to risk pre-order. The one risk with pre-order is that if you don't get the book done by the date that you're supposed to get it done, you cannot do pre-order for a year, which is a really big penalty for someone like me, because I do all my book launches now through pre-order. So that's also an extra incentive to get the book done within the time frame. Now that we're going to talk about getting the book done in 24 hours, one thing I want to address right away though is I'm showing you this book again. There's a reason for that. Because if I actually had to do this in 24 hours, that would be hard. That would be really hard to do in 24 hours. It's 280 pages, a little bit of research in there as well. But a book like this, Podcast Domination, where we're talking about a shorter book, this is easier to do in 24 hours than something like this, which just looks like it's a lot of words, it's a lot of good content, but definitely harder to do in 24 hours. And some books, I mean, I'm just going to give you Brian Tracy's book as an example, because I feel like the way we are going with publishing books is we are getting more specific, more like niche specialized, and we're also getting smaller. So as you saw earlier, my two books that I showed you, one of them is smaller, one of them is bigger, and we're going more in the smaller route. They're easier to write if you make them smaller. This is Brian Tracy's book that I'm referencing. Very small book. Also, the size of the book is pretty small, but the content in here is very helpful. And I do go back to this book, read it again, see what I underlined. And at the end of the day, like for nonfiction books especially, it just comes down to, did your book provide your reader with the value they were expecting? Because I could make a book like Podcast Domination, 200 pages. But if I could just do the same thing in 80, I'm not going to make someone sit there and read an extra 120 pages just because I felt like having a bigger book, because for some reason people think, you know, a 200 plus page book is different from an under 100 page book from an author standpoint. But from the reader standpoint, all you care about, does this book get me the results I want? Does this book help me move to the next level? Because there are some 200 page books that have more content, but that are not as good as 100 page books, just because of the value that you are providing. So the narrative here, we are leaning towards short books. I did a little bit of another video that talks about why you want to be writing shorter books instead of longer books. Basically, you get the book done faster and the shipping costs are lower. So when you go to buy your own book, whether it's for you personally or you're doing some kind of book signing or marketing, it's cheaper to buy each copy of Podcast Domination than it is for Content Marketing Secrets. Because for Content Marketing Secrets, there's more pages to print, there's more ink, and for Podcast Domination, there's just not as much of that. And if we're talking about orders of like 100 books or $1,000, I'm easily saving hundreds, even thousands of dollars in the long run just by choosing to write a shorter book. So shorter books definitely make a big difference, also easier for you to write. Just to give you an idea on word count, podcast domination is around 20,000 words. That's the range I go for some of my books. I wasn't able to get the exact word count for Brian Tracy's book. One thing I will say, I looked at the text and I looked at like the books in general. So podcast domination, we will just show you a page because I don't think the author is going to come after me for like a copyright infringement or anything like that because it's my own book. So as you can see, like there is some spacing. The text is definitely bigger for this book than in this book. It's not like I did like size 40 fonts or anything like that. But I do opt for bigger text in my book and spacing, not just that, you know, makes the book longer. And I mean, honestly, people do care a little bit about page length, but if you get to like 80 to 100 pages, you're fine. So not only does it help with book length, but there are some people who they can't see as well, but they still want to read your book. So I'm one of those people where I can see really well when something's near me, like if I'm reading like this, but if something is far away from me, it is harder for me to see. I do wear glasses sometimes. I will never wear them in my videos, personal preference. But the point is there are some people who, even if they do this, they still cannot see the words in your book. So that's why I opt for bigger text and improve the reader experience, and it also gets you a few more pages. And I add in some spacing in there. I don't know if it's like 1.2 or 1.5 or something like that. So that's pretty much how the inside part of the book works before you even think about adding any of the content. I just want to be clear about that. So, I mean, we're just about filling blank pages with black ink that ends up stringing together a bunch of sentences that provide value and give people the result they need. And I think there are a lot of people who they don't care if the book is only 20 pages, but if it gives them the results they're looking for, they're going to be happy. And one of the best personal development books of all time, Richest Man in Babylon, that thing, it's like maybe 20 or 30 pages. It's really, really short, but people love it because of the messages that it provides in such a short amount of time. So book size does not matter, and we're going to go shorter the better here because we want to get this thing out in 24 hours. So again, a book like this, 20,000 words. One thing you can do, this is a 6x9. You can make your book a 5x8 in Kindle. And just like that, you know, like this same book, we're just going to see page count here. Like the last page I see is page 90. There are some pages that don't show page numbers because that's what authors do at the beginning and end of their books. But 90 pages, I don't have the rough math on me for that one because that's like a harder number to calculate. But we are going to pull out the calculator and calculate that so we have an idea of how many pages that would end up being. All right, so we are in the calculator just to give you an idea. Again, 20,000 words, same exact content, 90 pages in the 6x9 format. That gives you a area of 54. If you take it the other way, you know, a 5x8 book, which you can also get done for you. That's one of the formatting options that Amazon gives you. You get 40. The reason this is important is because if you divide those two numbers, that's how much bigger the 6x9 is, like my podcast domination is, than a 5x8. Just as a reference, Brian Tracy's book I showed you earlier, I checked those sizes. That is a 4.5 by 6.5. So that means the length of it is 4.5 centimeters. The height of it is 6.5 centimeters. So that book's even smaller than a 5x8, and it still gives you the value that you need. So this is the multiple that we use. So a 90-page book, all you do is you slap a times 90 here. So the idea is that for podcast domination, if I wanted to make it a 5x8 instead of a 6x9, I am instantly adding an extra 30 pages to that book. Now, again, this is completely the same book. We have not added any more content. People just like if you could hit that 80 to 100 page zone. So for a book that, you know, in the 6x9 format would be just 60 pages, all of a sudden you're in that 81 page threshold. So just by changing the size of your book gives you more pages, which paints the idea of a more complete book. Again, all you have to do is deliver more value, the value that people are looking for within that book. So again, I know we're talking a little bit about book length. We're getting into writing and productivity hacks really soon and actually sitting down and writing your piece. But it is good to know all of this stuff in advance so you have a target for how many words you need to be writing. So 20,000 words, for instance, got me to 90 pages. And we're just going back to this part where it gets you to 121 pages. So 20,000 words gets you to around this length with a 5x8 book. So if you're looking to just do 1,500 words, 15,000 words for your book, you're still in pretty good shape if you do a 5x8 book. It's good to have anywhere from 80 to 100 pages. We've talked about that a lot, but again, like this is why I wanted to show you this. 15,000 words, I don't think that's enough to get you to 80 pages with a 6x9, unless you have a lot of pictures and bullet points. But with a 5x8, you get there. And you actually have some extra pages that you get also. And that is just one way to approach this. So you do have your book written in 24 hours. You have more pages with less words. It's up to you to provide value in those words. All right, here we are in the writing productivity section of this video, because you can figure out, like, 15,000 words gives you 90 pages, while in some other format, it would give you 50 pages. So now we know which format to choose. You can do the 6x9 format. That's pretty standard. You see a lot of, most books are 6x9, but if you do 5x8, you definitely write fewer words and you get a similar page count compared to if you did more words for a 6x9 book. So I know we've talked a lot about book dimensions and pre-order, but now we're getting into the actual writing. We're getting into the use your keyboard, type the words, and have the book. And we're going to start this part with different productivity hacks. Ironically, the first one is not writing. The first one is speaking into your phone and having it transcribed. So one of the apps that I'm quickly going to show you is Otter.ai. As soon as I can find it, there we go. Okay, Otter.ai. This is what I use to record my audiobooks. Now I know that is a little blurry, so just remember Otter.ai, which will be in the show notes, and in the show notes, in the description. So pretty much what happens is you talk and it records you, and it's actually pretty accurate, because a lot of people that in the past, they would recommend something like rev.com, $1 a minute. That was a golden standard until Otter.ai came in. And because it's so accurate and it's in real time. Now, the one thing about Otter.ai, and this is also a thing with Rev, is you have to edit it because it doesn't come out perfect. Otter.ai just comes out really, really good, though. It's a short period of time also. And the thing with this app, and transcribing and speaking in general, is we speak a lot faster than we actually type. For instance, if you wanted to transcribe this video right now, you would have to pause it a few times, listen to different things I'm saying again. So the rate I talk, you're never gonna catch up to the rate I talk by writing, because most people, they type at an average of 40 words per minute. We're speaking at an average of 120 words per minute. So certainly a big difference there. So one of the things I noticed when I first used the app is I did like 3,000 or 5,000 words. I know it's a big gap, but I'm leaning more towards 3,000 on this one. I did 3,000 words in just 30 minutes. And that is something I could never achieve by typing. And by getting those words down in the Otter app and moving them into your document where you have your book, you're getting more words done, and you're getting your ideas conveyed quicker. And then all you have to do is edit. You edit those big blocks of text, and then you make them more into the book format, like, subtitle, chapter, all that stuff. But with the Otter.ai app, it makes it a lot easier. Now, there are some people who they just want to type out the content. I'm one of those people too. I did see the power of Otter.ai. I do use it, but I do love typing some content as well because I've been doing that ever since I started writing books. So even though I like speaking into the phone and it saves time and I do it, I also like writing content. So what you want to do here, and this is also good to do before you do the Otter.ai, is come out with an outline. I know every single video about writing books in 24 hours has the outline. It is important, but we're going to approach it differently. So you have your mind mapping. A lot of people say mind map. You basically have a picture, you put your book title in the center, and you have a bunch of branches out of like different topics you could cover related to that book. So once you do your mind map, you then organize all that stuff into an outline. And then we get to the part that's different from everyone else. Because what I like to do is create a Socratic outline. That's what I like to call it. Because you put yourself in the reader's shoes and you decide to ask yourself questions. So let's say, for instance, like this book, Podcast Domination, it wasn't the 90 or so pages. It was just one page and it was just the outline. And if you're a reader and you just see the outline, what are the questions you have about each topic? So I will just quickly hit on one of these things in here. One of the things I have in here is writing the show notes. That's a topic that we just landed on one of the pages. So writing the show notes, if you just saw writing the show notes in the book with no context, it's a podcast though, about show notes, but the book just said write show notes, what questions would you have? Maybe you would have, do I hire someone or do I do it myself? If I want to do it myself, how can I do it most effectively? What are some of the things that I should be writing show notes on? So you see how I'm pulling out all these different questions, taking the stance of the reader. Like I know the answers to those questions because I write my own show notes. I've done both. I've hired people to do show notes and I've done show notes myself because I have this rubric that I use now that just makes it easier for me. But the idea is when you are the expert, sometimes it's hard to put yourself in the reader's shoes. And by doing that, by creating the outline, just having that list of ideas, but then for each of those ideas, asking yourself questions as if you were the reader who wanted to learn instead of you being the expert who knows this stuff, you can cover more ground in your book and have more ideas to cover. Because one of the issues that prevents people from writing their book in under 24 hours is they hit a block. And usually that block comes because they didn't put enough time into the outline. And it is great to do mind mapping. It is great to just do chapters and have some bullet points on what you want to cover. But if you do that Socratic questioning method where you ask yourself questions, put yourself in the reader's shoes, it'll be much harder for you to hit a block during that 24-hour stretch. And then honestly, the rest of it just comes down to finding time. And there are some different ways you can find time to write. One of the things you could do is you can use the bookends of your day. Wake up an hour earlier or go to bed an hour later. I like to wake up an hour earlier because that's a time when I prefer to write content. Later in the day is when I do better at creating video. And people have different preferences. You may be better doing your book an hour before you go to bed. My only thing against that though for anyone is that when you're doing a book, unless you're actually handwriting it, which I doubt, you're looking at a blue screen just before going to bed, which is not good. And thoughts of your book might keep you up late in the night when you're trying to sleep. Because, when you just like finish a busy day of business, you feel like you're not done, you go to sleep, like you're in bed, but your mind is still thinking about the business. You don't want that to be you with your book. Now, some people, they may be able to do their book at night and, more power to them. But if you wake up early, you start your day writing the book, that's going to put you in the right mindset for the rest of the day to be productive instead of doing the what everyone does, or at least what a lot of people do. Wake up, roll out of bed, check your email because you got to get that dopamine rush instead of writing the book. So instead of checking the email or do whatever you do in the morning, take some time, even if it's just like 10 to 15 minutes each day to write your book. Now, I know that tip in itself doesn't get you to, writing a book in 24 hours, but it's easier to write a book in 24 hours if you are a seasoned writer. So part of that is writing every day, whether it means 10 to 15 minutes when you wake up, a little more in the afternoon, a little more in the evening, because you can't, you technically could if you make time for it. Like, we have to make time for stuff, that we have to make things a priority. That's how we get stuff done. And if you're not getting it done, you're just not making it a priority. But it's not like we're going to be able to write one book per day for the next 365 days, because we have a lot of different things going on, not just in our businesses, but in our lives as well. So the advice in this video, this is more of like a pick one of the day in your calendar where you have nothing to do, and that is when you write your book in 24 hours or less. So you want to be writing every single day, in the morning or late at night, just to become better at it. Another thing to do, though, is use your smartphone to write, because what happens is a lot of people, they're waiting for stuff. They're waiting for the Uber. They're waiting for the ball game to start. They're flipping through their phone during commercials. And instead of flipping through, like going on Instagram or whatever and just seeing what other people are posting, you could be typing your book like you would be typing like a note on your phone. You could be doing a part of your book. And I've been really shocked at this because I've actually written entire blog posts just by waiting on my phone, in a moment where before I knew about this hack, I'd be like surfing Facebook, commenting on stuff, growing that way, or going on Instagram and liking stuff and commenting, maybe pulling out a picture. But the idea of being able to write your own book on your smartphone, which for me is conveniently brand your smartphone using something like Zazzle. By writing your book on your smartphone, that's just less content you have to write when you get home, or when the Uber arrives, or when you get to your office, because you did the content in that moment instead of having to do it later. And now you can do other stuff when you get back to your desk, or when you get back home if you work at home, or just in your working environment. So that's what I think about. Use those pockets of time for writing the book instead of surfing social media or whatever it is you prefer to do. So now with all of the writing productivity stuff and the basic foundation done, we're finally going to go into the Kindle Direct Publishing dashboard so you can publish your very own book on Amazon and start making money within 24 hours. So at this point, I'm assuming one of two things. Either you have your book cover and you're ready to do the pre-order way, which is the way I've been doing all my books now, or at this point you have written your book with some of those methods I shared, using 6x9 or 5x8, depending on how many words you got and what you feel like doing with your book. And you are at the point where, in that scenario, you are ready to upload the file and publish. So we're actually going to go through my book, The Wealthy Author, which at the time of recording is the most recent book I have published that has gone past the pre-order phase. So book title, subtitle, that's stuff that we don't have to talk too much about. I would say try to just incorporate some keywords in these sections. The book title, that's pretty much set in stone by now if you have the book cover. The subtitle, though, you might have some more leeway, but then again, this should be on your book cover too. So series, Grow Your Influence, book number 3. This is just something that you can do. We talked about that a little earlier. Author, we don't have any contributors for the book. Description, this is pretty important because a lot of people, they will not use this HTML. So if you put the H2 and then this other H2 with like the dash at the end, all of that becomes a bigger size. So I'm actually going to go into Amazon right now to show you what that looks like. We're just going to quickly pull up my book. So the H2, that's how you get this bigger text, and you have the smaller text. So like all of this is HTML. So the bullet points, those are also HTML. The bullet points are definitely not a lot of space to work with in regards to seeing. But this is the bullet point This is a bullet point HTML. So you have this thing leading it. You have all of your bullets with this and this, and then you close it out with this tag. So that is the setup for bullet points. You could also bold the font, in which case this is what gives you your bullet, and you end it with this. That's how you end the bullet and you move on to the next line. This is, you start bolding, and this is the part where you conclude the bolding. So I know this looks like a bunch of code, but it's really not that intense at all. I did take a C++ class very briefly. That was intense. This is, I don't know C++ now, but this is all the code that you really need to know. KDP also has some code guidelines, so it's all just HTML, nothing too complicated. Regarding underlining, you just have those greater, less than signs, U in the middle, and then you put this dash at the end with that U sign as well. So playing with the HTML really makes the description pop more, because if this was the same size as this, and none of these were bullet point and none of these are bold, the description would not be as eye-catching. And if you look at best-selling authors in your niche, you look at the books that are doing really well, they have descriptions that use HTML, they use bullet points and all that stuff, because that's just what catches attention. Your description needs to grab people's attention for you to increase more book sales. It's definitely an important part of the book. So in that description, it's usually good to start with the question: want to be a wealthy author and earn passive income from your books? Discover how wealthy authors make their books work for them. So you're giving them a hook right away. You're giving them a promise, a kind of benefit. Like, why would people want to read your book? This paragraph right here, I'm relating to what the reader has been through. So like, do you feel like you're doing this, but it's not working? Something like that. And then what exactly are you going to get? So you're going to get tested and proven strategies that wealthy authors use to monetize their books beyond 6 figures. So again, like, you're giving promises and benefits that people will get from the book. They don't care about features. Again, like, this is where we talked about page count. People don't care if it's a 100-page book or a 300-page book. People care about the value they're going to get. So again, just focus on the value that you are going to provide, the different promises. I use bullet points to really emphasize those promises, like how 6-figure authors view their books. I interviewed 30 people for the Wealthy Authors Summit. That's an evergreen event, free virtual ticket, wealthyauthorsummit.com. So I did all those interviews, a bunch of people making 6 figures and more of their books. And I just said, like, some of the key takeaways from that. Leveraging Amazon ads, also that, optimizing your book to thrive on Amazon search engine, all these different points. And then we just summarize what we've said already. And then we give a call to action here. Buy the Wealthy Authors and start applying tested and proven strategies to write your 6-figure book. So again, a final promise, like we're talking about the benefit one more time, and we're also saying buy the Wealthy Author. So publishing rights, this is pretty straightforward. I feel like you would, if you are not sure, chances are you just own the copyright. Because if it's a public domain work, I feel like you would know that. Like, if you wrote the book from start to finish on your own, it's you. So keywords, the way that you approach keywords for me is I just search on Amazon. And when you start typing a phrase like self-publishing, if I could spell that right, different suggestions come up. And then I will go through each of the books and I'll look at their rankings. So and these are sponsored, by the way. Amazon ads are really good for getting book sales. That might be a future video. But we're just going to, now again, self-publishing on Amazon in 2019. We're just going to click this book right here. And we're going to scroll and we're going to see the ranking. So that's a pretty high rank. This book is also here, 88 reviews. This one may have a better ranking. All right, so this one has a 36,000 ranking. Let me just see if that's right. Yeah. And as you can see, it's definitely it's definitely a better ranking for certain categories. So this is a book, again, part of a series, a work from home series, because like you see how I just clicked on that book and now all of a sudden I'm seeing the other 8. So we first found this book. This is the one we were on. And now all of a sudden we're seeing all these other book options because this author, just like me, writes books in series. So now we are back here as soon as my computer finishes thinking. But that's basically how you get the keywords for your book. Now I can talk about this even though my computer is pretty much frozen at this moment. But what we have here are categories. And these are the 2 categories that I picked from my book. One super important thing to note, there we go, we have movement. And this is pretty much going to be the last thing we actually talk about on this page. For the categories, I'm just going to hit save and continue and move on and talk a little more about this later. But these are not the 2 categories that you're going to run with for your book. These are categories that you just pick because this set categories tab is terrible. It does not give you the categories you want if you want to be a #1 best-selling author and make more money with your books. Instead, what you have to do, you have to contact Amazon directly using KDP and say, hey, I want my book in all these different categories instead. So I feel like when we hit save and continue, that's just going to be some really simple stuff like pricing. I usually price my books at, uploading file, cover, which you should get from Fiverr. You can do it yourself, but I recommend Fiverr. Launch preview, that's just going to be you seeing if your book looks the way it's supposed to look. That's just something you do. One thing that I do for this is like a PDF works really well. Microsoft Word document works really well. Pages, in my experience with Apple, does not work very well. So I always have to convert that file. This actually takes a while, so we're just going to get out of that. This is basically you pick your pricing, you pick your territories, which should be all over the world, and you pick the $2.99 price point. Why? Because you get 70% of the royalties. One thing I do sometimes for pre-orders is I will price it at 99 cents just to get bulk sales, because for some authors, it's more valuable to get volume for your books than it is to actually make money from book royalties. We'll talk why that's the case for some authors later on. So now we're going to go back into the bookshelf and we are going to find the place, there we go, where you can contact KDP support. Pretty much what we're doing here is we are saying the categories that we have for our book, we want some other categories instead that are going to do better for us. So Amazon product page, update category keyword. I like to do email. So they actually give you guidelines on how to do this. So give your number for your book and preferred category. So let's say, for example, I go into Amazon right now. You set this to Kindle store and you do self-publishing. So we're going to try that. We're going to go to, now one of the things you may want to do here is actually hit the sponsored book. I'm going to recommend that because people who are doing Amazon ads for their books are very conscious about getting more sales and spending money and doing a bunch of different tactics to boost their sales. So these are the people to pay attention to and seeing how they're ranking. So for instance, writing skills and advertising. Let's just say for a second that that's what the wealthy author is about, even though it's not, but writing skills and advertising. Now, writing skills, that is a little bit of the wealthy author. So some of these, like, they're not perfect fits, but they're close enough. So Gundy, I mean, she wrote this book. It's a #1. She has a lot of #1s. So like if you you're in the space and you do this, you're going to see a lot of her. As you can see, this book is 7,800. So if you want to be a #1 bestseller in this category, you got to have a book at 7,800 That is a pretty hard target. As you can see, Gundy again, Gundy. Yeah, so you see her all over the place. And, there's one thing to note about these books. Series. She loves doing series, and she's actually the person who got me into writing a book series. So these are not good areas to pick because you want to rank number one for these. And it's hard to do that when the top books are hovering at that, like 8,000 rank. So let's just try public relations. This book was a little lower than the other ones, but still pretty high rank. Yeah, under 10,000. This is a book I believe that Amazon ads are being run for this. So again, pay attention to Amazon ad books. Like, make it a point to click sponsored books, see some of the categories that they're using. So basically what we are trying to do here is we are just digging for some kind of category that really works for our book. It fits, it makes sense, and it's something that is not too hard to competitively rank for. I thought this would be really good. When you see something like Halloween Friends and Influence People, you know you're in the wrong category because remember, to be number one, you have to outrank all of the books you see. So there's certainly categories that are easier. I'm just like, yeah, I'm hovering in the, I gotta find a category that we can relate to a little better. Maybe something in real estate law. All right. Okay, this one might be good. Let's see. So again, like, we're assuming your book's about real estate. Okay, 82,000. That is the rank of the number one bestseller. So if by any chance you are watching this video and you write real estate law books, all you have to do is get 4 sales. And just like that, you are an Amazon number one best-selling author in this category. Because if you get like 4 sales right away, I don't know exactly where that puts you. I would say 60,000 for a rank. You get number one here. You take your screenshot. People see you here. So people who are interested in real estate law, that's also super niche, they find your book here as number one. So that's what happens when you pick the right categories. Again, that was, it did take some time to find that. I know that none of my books are real estate law. I just wanted to pick something that you could see this for. Like, see how you just need a few sales if you pick the right category. So we'll just go back to real estate again, because I got to show you how to reach out to the people at Kindle Direct Publishing. So here we go. So thanks to the magic of pausing and editing, we have this page right here, this tab actually, that has the information we need. So this is how you want to send your request to Amazon. So, you have the title of your book, you're requesting to have the book into, like, you could do up to 10 categories. So I want to have my book added to these 10 categories because I believe it will allow me to reach more readers. And then this is how you list the category: Kindle ebook, nonfiction ebook, business and money, real estate, law. And that's pretty much how you do it for that category and all the others. So just to go back here, show you how we did that. Kindle ebooks, that went to nonfiction. Kindle ebooks went to nonfiction. That went to business and money, which went to real estate, which then went to law, which is, in this case, what we're trying to rank for. Now, it is definitely, like, people actually do, like, this is a whole service people do where they just find you the right book categories that are easier to rank for because, again, if you're going through all these different books, you're looking for the one that gives you the easiest opportunity to, like, have something that's related to your book, but also rank high. Because if you go into, like, management leadership, for instance, like, you're competing with Covey, and he's not even the number one guy. Like, I would wonder what this book rank is. I feel like this would be within, like, the 1,000 range or even below that. Oh my goodness. So, like, this book is 38 overall. It's like all the millions of books. This book is numbered 38 right now. So it just gives you an idea. If you pick the wrong categories, this is what you're competing against. You're competing against all of these books. I mean, Seth Godin is number 50 on this list. So just to get to number 50 on this list, you have to do that book rank and essentially get more sales than Seth Godin. Now, that is possible. I believe if you get like 15 sales in one day or something like that, you're good. But why try to be number one in a category like this when you can find your equivalent of real estate law? So definitely something to think about. The way you categorize your books is really important for long-term stuff and getting more sales over the long term. And I know we're talking about getting sales in the 24 hours. We're going to talk about that more specifically, the 24-hour stuff. But if you don't have the categories right, I mean, big deal if you make a sale in 24 hours and then you're not making as many sales as you could be because your categories are messed up. So that's why we took this slight detour, but still very relevant because categories are really important for your book's success. All right, for this video, we are back to seeing me instead of the computer screen. And now we're going to talk about how do we promote our book so that we can get the sale within 24 hours, hopefully a lot more than that. Now, depending on your audience, you have a different strategy just based on your audience. For me, I just email my list and I know I'm going to get sales right away. For other people, maybe they have an email list, maybe they don't, but all of us have friends. And these are the people who can reach out to and say, hey, I just came out with a book. I'm really proud of it. Would you mind buying it? I'd really appreciate it. They buy it. Some of them may even leave a review for you, which is really good. One thing you could do at the last page of your book, ask for that review because then you'll get more reviews. But the idea is to ask your friends because anyone can do that. Like, it doesn't matter what size your audience is. You have a few people who you can reach out to. Now, one thing I will suggest is build a lot of relationships. Like, make that a daily habit because you don't want to only reach out to people when you need them. What you want to do instead is provide a lot of value and then reach out. Because if you don't communicate with someone and then it's like, like 2 years in between like the last conversation, you're like, buy my book. Like, if you knew the friends really well, maybe, but if this is someone you're meeting online, maybe not. So definitely keep your relationships strong, continue nurturing them. Because not only will you get the case where, friends decide to buy the book, because I've had that happen a lot of cases where someone who I knew, whether it's from an interview or just a friend who I met, offline, will end up buying the book. But some of these people, what they'll do is they'll say, wow, I love this book, or wow, I love you and what you're doing, or I feel like more people should get this book. So they send an email to their audiences about the book. So the thing is, you can only do so much on your own, but if you get other authors to help out with the promotion, that will help you get a lot more book sales. One way, again, building relationships is key for doing that. If you have a big enough audience, you could even do exchange promotions. You could do this, and it's relative to audience size. So like if you have like 100 email subscribers, talk with authors who have around that same kind of audience size and say, hey, if you promote my book to your audience now, like I'll promote your next book when it comes out or whatever it is you want to promote. Doing that email cross promotion is such a great strategy for getting book sales and also sharing more valuable content with your audience. And you can even make money by promoting other people's books as Amazon affiliate links. So there's plenty of revenue to be earned with that strategy. So that's the key thing, building relationships. Yes, there are Amazon ads, which are also great. That is more of an in-depth video though, but those are great for getting long-term sales, but they're not great when you're first starting out. The reason for that is because when you're first starting out, your book has no reviews, no social proof, and people like to see a book that has a bunch of 5-star reviews. So one thing I do for my books is I will, unless it's a pre-order, which is, I understand that's the model I've been using lately, but what I prefer to do ideally is really ramp up the Amazon ads as soon as I get my 10th review, because that's where the social proof starts to build. So I will go all out getting reviews for my books, like Content Marketing Secrets. We showed you at the time of this video, we are 19 reviews. So you know what, if you've liked this video and you happen to have that book, be number 20, consider it. We got to hit that big 20 mark. I feel like maybe by the time you watch this video, we may already be at 20, but definitely leave that review anyway, because every review helps any book. And as an author yourself, you are aspiring author, you know how important those reviews are. So that's what you want to do in the beginning. That's why we didn't really cover Amazon ads that much, because that's not a beginning play. That's the moment you get more reviews, that's when we really ramp up the Amazon ads. But the relationship building, that's going to be what gets you the initial sales and allows you to build that initial momentum. All this really comes down to relationships. Now, when it comes to making money with your book, all we really talked about was, that background stuff like writing a book, KDP, all that stuff. But with the money part, we've been focused on writing the book, having it published, and then here's the book, $9.99. I give it to you because you buy it, and then that's the end of it. So that's so far how we've been viewing it, but there's so much more to it. And I think you can really get the idea on this first page of podcast domination. What I do here, because I didn't have Profitable Podcasting Summit up yet, so I used Content Marketing Success Summit. This book actually became inspiration for a summit. So first page, I know that's maybe not easy for everyone to see, but I promote my virtual summit, Content Marketing Success Summit, on that first page. It is evergreen, so people who get their free ticket, they go to it, they get the immediate upsell for a $47 all access pass. So and there's also an order bump there. One click, you get the blog post promotion blueprint for another $27. So this book, where I make $2 for a Kindle book sale, maybe $4 for each paperback book sale. Fun fact, this book actually sells more paperbacks than any of the books that I've ever written. Fun fact. But I instantly turn it from a $2 to $4 transaction to like a $47 or a $74 transaction. I got smarter in the Wealthy Author, where I introduced services at the end. So pretty much what I say in the Wealthy Author is, I've given you all this value on how to become a wealthy author. If you want me to do it for you, I got you. If you want coaching, I got you. So I include like more services at the back end of the Wealthy Author, because when people get to the end of your book, much like the end of this video, people trust you a lot more than when they first started, and they recognize you as a lot more of an expert. So you can include that kind of upsell at the end of your book. So never view your book from a money standpoint as just the royalties, because then you're missing out on so much of the revenue. And most six-figure authors become six-figure authors because they make maybe 4 or 5 figures with their book, and then they cover the rest of the gap with services, with trading courses, with all of that fun stuff. So I hope you enjoyed this video on how you can write and publish your very own book on Amazon in under 24 hours and make money, because to have that kind of payoff right away definitely allows you to see the model in action, definitely allows you to see that this is something that works for you, because the moment you get that first sale, that's when you realize the sky's the limit. That's when you realize all the stuff is possible. So we really got to get that first sale for you if you don't have that first sale already from another book. So I definitely hope you enjoy this video. I hope you subscribe if you want more videos just like this one. I also hope you've got my 3 books there, more I'm writing. If you like this video, if you feel like you would like my books, I hope you give one of them a try. Kindle editions, they're $3. Regarding author stuff, Wealthy Author Summit, that is my evergreen event. Also free, 30 speakers. We have one speaker who goes so deep into Amazon ads and shows his screen. And we have 29 other sessions about writing your book, turning into a bestseller, and making a passive income from it. So signing off, what I want you guys to do is to dream big, achieve greatness, and unlock your potential. And hit that subscribe button today.